Thank you for joining us here tonight on a special edition of BlizzPro's Today in Sanctuary. Yesterday, a barbarian was apprehended after a prolonged chase on the outskirts of New Tristram's. Reports say that he was pulling 50 miles per hour in a school zone. When asked for comment, the only response the fugitive said was, "How tastes your fear?" In Westmarch, a massive Ponzi scheme was uncovered after a police investigation into the business matters of a local businesswoman, one Kadala. When pressed for comment, the accused merely stated of her innocence and that she'd be bringing the best defense lawyers blood shards could buy. Finally, riots broke out in Bramwell today during a performance by the Blue Man Group. Witnesses say that the concert-goers rushed the stage in an attempt to kidnap the group while chanting, "I need blues for my rerolls." All these stories and more during the 11 o'clock news, but first we go back to Leviathan, Nineball, and Monstrous for tonight's episode of the Westmarch Workshop.
Wow, that was excellent. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I figured I'd do something a little bit different for tonight.
Very good, especially since there seems to be a bit of a lack of news. Why not make up your own?
Exactly. I'm just glad that you caught on to that.
And then of course you have Dreadscythe in chat saying, "I need blues."
He is not the only one.
No.
Tried to at least touch on some of the undercurrents of the community so far. A little bit of fun, having fun with that.
Very topical. Very, very topical.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, welcome to episode 49 of the Westmarch Workshop, Kissing Kadala. And
Or, depending upon how long you've been in chat, you might also see the intro that Nineball forgot.
No one ever saw. See, no one had to know, but now you let them all know.
Well, I think you're unfortunately that is what you tweeted when your channel went live.
Don't worry about it. No one sees that, right?
No one at all. None.
But yeah, so we have a title for our show, and we also have a special guest with us this week. Decided to wrap in good old Monstrous, who you may all be familiar with from Diablo fans and creating some of the most amazing mock-ups of possible features that could go into the game. He also, of course, has a tie-in with the show because he once appeared with Archon on the legendary workshop where they created the Shard of Hate back in the day. So, Monstrous, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I gave away some of your credentials, but yeah, we want to know why you're here, why you're on our lawn.
To start off, I'm a huge Diablo fan and Blizzard fan in general. I'm an MVP on the official Blizzard forum, so you might see my text as shiny green. But I do stand a lot, or spend a lot of time, I guess, on Twitter as well. So you might see a lot of my tweets there. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, not to spoil any coming attractions in this show, but I did see some ham floating around yesterday.
Yeah, the hammer.
I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. that ever since the Heroes of the Dorm, ham just seems to be like the big thing in like Blizzard culture right now.
Yeah, ham on the core.
Gotta go ham on the core, baby. All right, so I guess we should just jump right into things, because even though there's a lack of news, I feel like we'll have a lot to discuss.
If we like you said, we make our own news. We invent topics to talk about.
That's right. And at the end of the day, aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll do our normal thing here with our week in gaming, and because we're courteous, we'll go ahead and kick it over to Monstrous to start.
Yes.
My week in gaming, like I was saying before the show started, I was playing a little bit of outdoor games, I guess. I was playing a little golf on the weekend. But other than that, I've been, trying to find my ancient serpent sparker on my wizard so far this season. It's hasn't been found so far. And I guess I do a little bit of raiding in WoW as well, and just a couple days a week, and our guild finally got down a couple more bosses, so now we're sitting at 7 of 10 mythic right now. So
very nice.
For a 2-day-a-week guild and just a bunch of friends, I think we're doing pretty well. So that's kind of where I split my time between Diablo and all Blizzard games, I guess. Yeah. So
Awesome. I actually want to interject real quick because one thing that is kind of pertinent to our show in general, there was the Activision Q1 results that came out today, and I guess people, as it happens every time that these numbers come out, think the sky is falling, WoW subs are down and whatnot. So I wanted to throw it to you guys because I know both of you are subbed currently and you play World of Warcraft, at least a decent amount. So what does this mean to you in terms of the numbers going down?
At this point, it's kind of one of those ones where I guess World of Warcraft has kind of found its kind of market saturation. I guess would probably be one of the better terms for it, as it will, it's gone down, but then, the next content patch, I'm sure the numbers will spike and then go down a little bit more. It's kind of what it is. It's just going to be a kind of a roller coaster at this point. But I think it's kind of found its foothold where now it's just you have a large portion of the population will resub for a new patch or new raid or whatever, kind of go through, do their thing, and then unsub and wait for the next content patch to come out.
Yeah, it's somewhat like I remember like some of the Diablo developers kind of talking about like when a new season comes out, you play it for a while and then you leave Diablo for a little bit. It's kind of the same way, but on a larger scale. As soon as a new expansion comes out or even a new raid, people flock, and then it kind of takes a turn and people start exploring some other games, but they'll always come back to it, eventually. So, yeah.
Cool, that makes sense. Yeah. So hopefully those who are watching who are fans of both, don't worry about World of Warcraft. It's not dying off just yet.
Yeah, there was actually a hilarious picture that I saw earlier today that was going and, commenting on that exact thing. It was a tombstone and it said World of Warcraft, born 2004, and then it just was like dead 2008, and then that scratched out, dead 2009, that scratched out, and it was like Age of Conan, the Old Republic, all these, it was listing all these games, that had come out and just being like, WoW is dead. And then finally it had ended, I think was just please see other Tombstone, just for more dates. And it just ended at 2012, just what the reason is of why WoW is dead every year. And I mean, as long as people continue to pay subscriptions, they'll be financially successful at 1 million subs. Right. So it's going to be a very, very long time.
For sure. So I just wanted to throw that quick interjection in there. But Monstrous, was there anything else in terms of your week in gaming you wanted to throw
out? Not really. I mean, my wizard. I guess I've been playing a wizard a lot lately. I kind of took a break from the Crusader and the Barbarian for this season at least, because I kind of had a feeling that there was going to be some new sets coming down the road for both the Crusader and I did play the Barbarian last season a lot. Right. So I kind of wanted to change it up a little bit. I was kind of leaning towards either a Demon Hunter or a Wizard, and I just fell on the Wizard just kind of as a throwback to my old D2 days. So. Yeah, so that's about it. I mean, I'm full Ancients.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, full Ancients right now, and I've got some really good gear, but still that Serpent Sparker is really hurting me right now.
The ever elusive. So what are you using instead of the Serpent Sparker since you are full Ancients?
I've got a pretty nice non-ancient version, and but I also have an Ancient Furnace that I kind of throw around or play around a little bit in some greater rifts and just some speed runs. But a new build popped up, still using Tals, but with an Aetherwalker. And you actually teleport around and stun everything and just drop your meters. And it actually, there's a couple wizards on the leaderboards right now for non-season, and they're sitting mid-50s right now. So using that spec. So I've got an Ancient Aetherwalker, so I've been playing around with that. So
nice, because then I'm assuming that's going to be using the Calamity rune on teleport.
Yeah, it basically turns teleport into your damage / stun. So yeah,
nice. And then are you going to take Ancient Parthian Defenders then for kind of the defensive bonus there?
Yeah, that's basically what keeps me alive. So yeah.
Cool, man. I love. It's really cool how these different builds will come and go, and I mean, this can branch into some 9-ball stuff here too. But you see early on with the Demon Hunters, and everyone's just hot on Hollowed Essence, and then suddenly there's that huge meta shift, and now everyone's like Nats all day. So it's really cool to see that the innovation is still continuing, and we're almost a month into the season.
It's really funny that we have like 2 builds that are focused around movement skills for damage, because there's a Nats build that uses the Denettas and Vault as its main way of taking the cooldown off of Rain of Vengeance. I think that's pretty interesting about how like Denettas and Etherwalker have both kind of like moved their way kind of into those we can clear Greater Rift 50 plus type areas.
Definitely. I mean, it also shows the importance of being able to move and do damage, right?
Yeah, because with both of those, you can skip packs if you don't, if you don't like the setup, or you have multiple elites at a very high Greater Rift, and you just don't, or you're not going to have the time to engage it. You just, okay, I'm going to the next room. Goodbye.
Yeah, and on that topic, like in the build that I'm using, I don't think I've got to the Rift Guardian before with like something like 6 or 7 minutes left in a 54 or something like that. And I didn't kill the Rift Guardian in time, but I don't think I killed one elite the whole way. I just went around skipping everything and killing all trash. And then it's kind of an interesting setup because you actually get to use the Convention of Elements ring. So the way that you tackle a Rift Guardian is you teleport in when the fire element is up, the buff is up for fire element, and then you just drop everything you can and just teleport away, and it's kind of going back and forth, and that's I guess why it takes so long to kill a Rift Guardian, but timing it adds a little bit of a interesting element to the gameplay. So
that's cool.
Interesting element.
Heyo, we'll be here for at least 2 hours. All right, so 9-ball, how about yourself? How's your week in gaming?
My week in gaming has actually been pretty good. I guess my biggest accomplishment has been non-Diablo related. As I mentioned in the last episode, I had my semifinals match in my Warhammer 40k league this weekend. And anyone that's kind of watched the shows knows that I've always done really well in my store's leagues, but as soon as it gets to the playoffs, I choke and die. So this is the first time I've actually won in my semi-finals match, and going into the finals either this weekend or next weekend, depending upon how you have to wait for the other side of the bracket to finish up to see how it goes. But I'm excited. Undead Space Egyptians, yay! Yep.
Very cool, man. And no dead characters?
No new dead characters, thankfully, with which to mention.
Very good.
Yep.
And on
Broke
my
the streak.
Yes, on my side, no dead characters either. We did it!
All right, okay, there it is.
We've made it through a week without dying.
Holy crap.
Which, given our past couple of episodes, that is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
There should be an achievement for that.
Ding. If I have planned better, I could have had something pop up on the screen right then and there.
Yep.
Next time. Newer technologies in the future.
Yep.
There were a couple of issues, weren't there, with the servers and stuff earlier this week?
Yeah.
It was really. I moved away from hardcore just for this season at least, and I'm glad I did at least because
like
I was experiencing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. You're definitely right to bring that up. There were some weird things going on with people just getting dumped right out of games, disconnects, lag, and as a result, some people with really, really good gear lost characters. I actually saw, I didn't see, but Mikey, one of the stalwart listeners of our show, I've been talking to him in a raid call quite a bit, and he told me that there was a barb that was actually on Reddit and was offering, I think, power leveling to whoever wanted it. So it was kind of happening at that exact same time, and he was like super geared out, like all ancients everywhere, full Wrath of the Waste, IK, etc., etc. And lost it all while trying to help people. It's just the worst.
Yeah, I missed that story.
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter too that Deadmau5 he lost his character as well.
Yeah.
He was pretty upset about that.
A little bit of rage.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yep, ever so slightly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the caveat of jumping in. You know that there will be unstable server moments and unstable internet connections, and kind of put it in the back of your head.
Yeah, there will be those deaths that are outside of your control, though. For the most part, the deaths that I've seen still across people with hardcore, lag is one of the least cause of death. I at least from most of the deaths that I've seen in hardcore and such, it's not because of lag. It's due to something else, either a bad combo, not paying attention, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. I feel like too, it's kind of the like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You always hear about the lag deaths the loudest.
Oh yeah.
And then people aren't going to necessarily be like, "Hey, guess what, guys? I died to some things in Greater Rifts. What? That was crazy." They're not out celebrating it or making a note of it. So.
Mm-hmm. It's like one of those ones, it's just, I popped my cooldowns at the wrong time, got to a higher level in trials than what I could take on, and got killed.
What are you trying to say, man?
Nothing.
Okay, all right. People die in trials, okay? Happens.
People die in trials all the time.
All the time. Can't wait to get rid of trials.
They are going away. They are, in fact, going away.
It's true. In any case, my week in gaming, yes, it did not die, so that was great. Been playing more Demon Hunter than anything right now, which has been an eye-opening world. I'm realizing that I'm actually a noob. I have no business hosting or doing anything with the podcast because I have no idea what I'm doing on the Demon Hunter now. But it's the greatest feeling, actually, because for so much time, M6 was pretty figured out, and I knew what I needed to do as soon as I assembled the pieces that I had. But now it's kind of interesting. There are a lot of gearing choices, throwing pieces away, at least in Unhallowed Essence, that don't roll with Discipline as a secondary, and then there's another primary that I need to re-roll as well. So it's kind of cool that there are certain gearing requirements, but just generally trying to do crazy stuff like not use Unity and kill things before they get to me, which obviously has been a Demon Hunter kind of way of life, but it feels even more immediate because there are no sentries to hide behind anymore. It's just you and your 1 billion crits hopefully doing what they need to do.
Yeah, take the squishy factor and multiply that one by a little bit without having the access to the Unity, though you're somewhat compensated because of the set bonus giving you that damage decrease. So, it's not like you completely lost a 50% damage reduction, but you definitely notice, how much more you take those hits. But if you play in group settings, your survivability is actually increased.
That's true. You just hide behind everyone else.
Yeah.
Well, not just that. In a group, you wouldn't have access to Unity, but now you have you have the defensive bonus from Unhallowed if you're using it.
That makes sense, definitely. But yeah, it's been fun. Still been playing a little bit on the Barb, just here and there to keep it up. Still looking for Ancient Wrath of the Waste Pants, but other than that, eventually, hopefully getting over the fear of dying on that guy, and we'll push up to some Greater Rifts again. But yeah.
I have faith in you.
I hope so. Can't be bringing more death to the show, so we'll see, man. We will see. Also, something that I guess we can sort of tie into going forward here. One of the things we wanted to talk about this week was the player way that went down last Thursday. I've been doing a lot of Ubers and crafting of Hellfire amulets, and my God, it's been painful. Not only did yesterday we did 10 games where we killed the Ubers because we had machines built up from previous, so we killed the Ubers for 10 games, and then we also did the key farming while we were killing the Ubers as well. And I think there were 3 or 4 of those games where we literally went 0 for 4 on all key wardens.
Ouch.
This seems astronomically not supposed to happen, but sometimes you get those bad beats, and apparently it's possible to get double key drops from one key warden. Never happens. Never compensates. So.
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to lead in to that with the player way because some of the things that Don Vu, who was the special Blizzard guest there along with Nevelistus, and then also Meathead Mikael, and Davlok, who was the second place runner-up, but the one who actually showed up because the Wizard did win, like we mentioned previously.
Because Wizards never show up.
They have no business on any of these streams, I guess. But yeah, so Davlok was there, and both he and Meathead just went in. They went ham on the core on Don Vu because the onslaught of questions was pretty crazy, and I was surprised how open and ready to answer them Don Vu was. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess I was surprised with just the level of openness that he was allowed to go through and talk and discuss things on the stream itself. But I guess I wasn't surprised with him being that open because Donbu, he's a really cool guy and loves to just go through and spitball things. And anyone that's going to be going to BlizzCon, if you have the chance to catch up and meet him, by all means ask any questions that you want, and you're going to have a very good time.
Definitely agree. He's a pretty good, just from the stuff that we've seen of him in the past, and of course I assume you've met him at some of these BlizzCon type things that happen every year.
Yeah, I thought that you were there, or maybe it was just Blake and I. We had a conversation with him at the launch party.
Oh no, I don't think I was there for that. Now I'm sad.
Yeah, he was definitely enjoying his drinks. But yeah, very very lively, very energetic individual. It was just a blast to have a conversation with.
Awesome. And one of the nuggets that he did reveal was there's an adventure mode overhaul happening behind the scenes right now. Some of the key wording that he was using was for future patches. So we're not exactly sure on the timing. Maybe it's a 2.3 thing, maybe not. But he did note that Johnny, who I can only assume was Johnny Ebert, is in the background working on improvements to adventure mode. And some of the things that were mentioned was, I believe he mentioned not needing keys for regular rifts, which was interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the reasons behind that he mentioned was that they wanted bounties to kind of exist for a very specific reason and not necessarily to be just like you do them just to deliver these keys to you. Like if you want to do rifts, you should be able to do rifts. And it kind of goes along with the same sentiment of getting rid of trials too. So it's like if you want to do greater rifts, you just go do greater rifts. You don't have to go through this trial thing. So that was an interesting development.
Yeah, because it's gating the content that's a gate to another gate. You have to run bounties to get your fragments, so you can run rifts to get your trial keys, to run the trials, so you can get your greater rift key to go and try and get to the level that you want to compete at. So yeah, it makes sense to go through and just kind of, if you're going to scrap one, might as well just get rid of the whole ladder at that point.
Which is interesting too, because like if they get rid of the keystones, what do bounties besides the items that you can get in the bags, what else is there? Are we going to see maybe things like we have greater rifts for regular rifts? Do we have like greater bounties or something like that? Like something that's special or unique, I guess, to bounties themselves. There's a lot of possibilities. So
right, that would be cool, because obviously once you kind of get what you need out of them, everyone farms Act 1 until they get their Ring of Royal Grandeur, and then you don't really do it anymore unless you need the keys, the Rift keys. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they could incentivize it further without necessarily stepping on the toes of any of the other reward systems that are currently in the game.
Yeah. It does bring up the question of what will they enter into the game to add that reason to actually want to play the bounties. What is it that you're going to get to entice the player to play bounties, as opposed to if I can just go in and do greater rifts or regular rifts all live long day.
Yeah,
because right now they are just ring of royal grandeurs and key fragments, and that's it.
Right, and a couple like select items for builds and things like that.
Yeah.
One of the other parts, and this is kind of why I led with my Hellfire story, they did mention that there might be a rework coming to the Ubers, the Hellfire rings, amulets, that whole encounter. He said I don't know if he said these exact words, but I'm going to use their phrasing on the radar, if you will, of things that they might be doing with this rehash of the adventure mode. So, and I guess it's probably pertinent to say right now too that some of this stuff may or may not come to bear fruit, right? Like we never know. This is just kind of him spouting out what he's seeing and hearing about in the office right now, but who knows what it'll actually be like when it all goes live or hits PTR even. So grain of salt with all of this, of course, but we did hear it from a dev, so it's definitely worth discussing.
Yep, and even if it's something that they're working on, if it doesn't work, it's going to get trashed and moved on to something else.
So for me, that was kind of one of the big takeaways. Did you guys have any points of conversation that you wanted to pull out from this?
I mean, just about the Hellfire, or just or from
No,
the
the whole player
the
way.
whole player way in general.
Yeah.
I guess one of the other interesting things that kind of got mentioned there was there was the discussion about the other class sets that might be coming in 2.3, and kind of something that was thrown out there was a Hammerden set. Because Don mentioned about how much that he loved playing Hammerdens in Diablo 2, and that he really misses that style of gameplay, and that so the next Crusader set might be centered around Blessed Hammer.
Yeah, very cool. Monstrous, I saw you putting out tons of tweets kind of hyping up the Hammered In coming back and trying to think about what that set might look like. Did you get any feedback or things that came to mind?
Um, yeah, I started a discussion on the forums to try to start brainstorming some ideas for the set, and they mentioned that they want it to be a throwback to the D2 Hammerden. I guess the new set would be considered a Hamader or something like that.
Ham on the Crusader.
Ham on the Crusader, yeah, Ham Satyr.
Yep.
So they said that they wanted a throwback, which, I mean, I don't know if everybody in chat or anything has played the D2 Crusader, but it involved teleporting around using a couple special items. Enigma, I guess, was the armor that people used, or I guess everybody wanted in D2.
Everyone.
But it involved them teleporting around and casting Bless Hammer, and then moving around to the next pack and casting Bless Hammer. And he said that he wanted it to be a little bit more active play style, rather than just, like I said, teleporting around and just casting Blessed Hammer. So there might be a couple other skills involved. I hope there's still a teleport, and it's definitely going to involve Blessed Hammer spinning around. But if you look back at the D2 builds, they had a lot of synergies and stuff within their skills tree. And Consecration was a one that provided a lot of benefit for the Hammerden playstyle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to figure out how they would incorporate that into the build, if they wanted to do like an actual throwback, or what other skills would be involved. There's a lot of falling sword and stuff like that was thrown around on the forums that would be kind of cool to incorporate into the build. I still think that falling sword should have its own set, but
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is such an iconic skill for the Crusader. It was one of the first skills that they kind of showed off and really played up during the BlizzCon reveal, and then it just was.
Even the pet that you got for the Murky pet from BlizzCon.
Yeah.
It even did the falling sword animation, which was awesome. And then you get the skill in the game, and you're like, ah. But yeah, that's another story.
Yeah,
sure.
I guess one of the other things that I think of when I think of the old Hammerdens is just like the concentration aura, and so I think that they might be able to add some group utility to the build by adding some sort of damage bonus. To if you have a law up, whatever law you have up also gives like a damage bonus to the whole team.
That could be pretty interesting. That'd be kind of crazy too with like critical Laws of Valor, because that already gives you like a decent damage bonus, but then maybe that bonus from the set is just always there, always passive. So
yeah, because
cool.
that was one of the big things of the Hammerden build that worked well if you went into a group, is because all of your damage was increased by like 300%, or your physical damage was increased by 300%, so long as you stayed around the Paladin.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I want to question, so with the teleport fantasy, wanting to continue to have that as a part of it, that's going to put you into a bit of melee range as well too, right? So then how does that work with Blessed Hammer kind of being like a mid-range skill as well? Do you think that there would be some issues with mobility within the set in terms of trying to position your character perfectly and whatnot?
Well, from the gameplay perspective, one of the reasons why teleport was so useful in Diablo 2, besides, obviously just getting to bail in 30 seconds or something along those lines, was there was a very set path, just like in D3, that the hammers would go in loop. Mm-hmm. So there were certain positions that you needed to make sure that the monster was in to always have it hit by the hammer. Teleport would just always allow you to get like directly below the monster, so that way the first pass of the hammer would always hit it. So maybe not so much having a teleport, but maybe having some other workaround with, say, the horse, just for like that mobility aspect, or maybe even some ability of the set that would just let you control the placements of the hammer. Maybe you'll have like an off piece that would allow you to cast the hammer from your mouse click, kind of like how the monks, have the I forget which spirit stone it is that allows you to cast bells at range. Just kind of to set up with the set or have it a part of the set itself.
Sounds like a cool solution, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always thought too, like they need something to cast. If it was actually going to be a true teleport, like they would need something to cast in order to, so they can point where they wanted to teleport. And I mean, judgment would be an awesome skill because you actually put down where you want that, right? So, and I don't know if they wanted to incorporate consecration or something like that, they could actually maybe a cast judgment also cast that, or yeah, or maybe the set itself changes the way that the hammer spiral. Maybe they start out and they come back in.
Ooh.
I don't know. There could be like reverse the hammers, I guess. There's a lot, or maybe there's two hammers that go opposite direction. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of Judgment teleporting you. It's kind of got that Thor feel to it. He doesn't actually fly; he just throws his hammer. Is taken along for the ride.
Well, when I think about that too, because when I was brainstorming possibly the set going towards buffing up Blessed Hammer, I figured they were on this big kick with wanting generators to be meaningful and to also be included. So Justice is another one where you kind of are throwing hammers as well too, because they just introduced that Blessed of Hall, the new belt for Crusaders, and so when you throw a hammer, funny enough, it makes Blessed Hammer again. So maybe they incorporate that too, like you kind of throw your hammer, and I guess that's why I was thinking like, oh well, maybe if you throw the hammer then you teleport there, and then it becomes kind of like you're putting yourself in that melee range, and then maybe you back out as the Blessed Hammers come out of that initial hammer initiation and whatnot. There's so many ways to take it, and it's really exciting just to think about like the possibilities of what they could do.
And there are hammer jammers too that don't really do anything right now. So
we need the hammer jammers to have a purpose.
The hammer jammers could have a purpose.
Yeah, that they could.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'm excited for that. I mean, I know that they've brought back like the frozen orb, kind of like sorceress, and that playstyle, and oh my, I just lose my voice here.
And also the multi-shot, kind of
multi-shot
from DH. Yep.
Yeah.
So it is really cool how they're starting to bring in these old playstyles as throwbacks. Yeah,
definitely. All right. Other thoughts from Player Way?
Just one of the other kind of things that they mentioned discussing. Like the difficulty of greater rifts, and them continuing on the trend of conversation about just kind of wanting to remove the permanent CC, in order to make it so that the damage doesn't scale so insanely at the higher levels. And if they remove permanent CC, it'll allow them to go through and reduce monster damage.
Right, so that's something that I think I talked about last episode very briefly, but that's something I was talking about with Jage too, because obviously he has great concerns about groups and moving up into high greater rifts, and kind of obviously trying to use the meta as much to his advantage as possible. But we're kind of trying to envision the world. What happens after permanent CC is no longer there? What comps do you see? What gems become more useful, etc. And so, Monstrous, I know that you like to play in groups primarily. I don't know if you've been pushing greater rifts with groups as you've been playing this season, but do you have any thoughts in terms of what's going to happen when permanent CC removes, what you would like to see happen perhaps, and some of the adjustments you would hope for?
Well, I mean, as far as like removing perma CC, I think there's still I don't know what they plan on doing with like polls and stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's considered as far as they're taking the same as perma CC. Like, if you could like keep on pulling mobs in and grouping them, there still might be a need for like a monk or a crusader to provide the pull. I mean, there are some new items coming out that are out there, like the wizard bracers that provide a pull. I mean, or black hole. I think those are still going to be very important, at least to contain enemies and do that kind of stuff. But as far as like permanently CCing, someone still is going to be taking the hits. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, in a way, like they do have to reduce. If they do one, they're going to have to reduce the damage across the board,
Hmm.
which is going to open up a lot of new play styles or things like that, or different. I mean, I don't know if that's going to make people spec like even more towards damage, like more than what they already do, I guess. Especially in hardcore, it kind of switches now to you have a little bit, you have something saving your life in hardcore now. Right now, but does that move away from that? I mean, you guys are the experts as far as, well, I shouldn't say experts because you guys have lost characters the last couple of weeks.
There it is.
But for a week, you guys have been
Hurt,
experts.
you hurt me
So,
bad.
hey, I played all last season and didn't lose a character, so
Oh, boom.
that was my first like actual season playing hardcore too. So I was pretty proud of myself.
True
But
expert. No, I
I'm an
mean,
expert.
you bring up a valid point because if we're looking, I guess it really it's hard to predict because we've seen, at least with each season, just the tiniest bit of power creep, and I would say probably with this season the most drastic power creep
Oh yeah, by far.
across all classes. In the past couple of seasons, I would say you saw it in certain classes, maybe not as much. Witch doctors, sorry, lagging behind a little bit, but now. Obviously, our classes can, for the most part, across the board, put out crazy damage when spec'd properly. And the only thing kind of holding that back is, yeah, you're creeping up into these really high greater rifts, and you can't take the hits. So then you have this very urgent need for these support classes that essentially allow you to take no damage. I would almost imagine that, like you're saying, you probably will still need some kind of contain, something to ball up enemies because, like you were saying, you can go through a rift and only kill whites and spawn the Rift Guardian with plenty of time to kill it. And so having that kind of ability to mass produce or mass gather the white mobs is going to still be very important. So maybe it moves from two, because you kind of have your support Crusader, ZDPS Witch Doctor. Maybe only take one of those. And now you have a third DPS slot open, and then you can actually progress further than you could previously.
All right. Another kind of idea is if they do reduce the damage, maybe they take a look at the amount of health globes that are that spawn, and maybe you actually have to play smarter and actually dodge stuff because you don't want your health to get lower. And if there's less health globes, then you actually have to take into consideration your environment. You can't just like stand in everything you want just because the damage is reduced. So there's a bunch of things that they can look at. Yeah.
Well, they did that in 1.2. Was that the patch?
With
When they buffed healing and reduced the healing on health globes.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I know that is something that they definitely want to do and get you more concerned with actual, like active survivability of getting. They buffed healing to make it a bit more desirable on gear, and then they reduce the amount of health that you get from health globes, so that way you can't just that the monsters will provide all the healing that I need. It would be interesting if they reduced the damage and then also reduced the amount of healing, I guess, to kind of keep it neck and neck. Your overall survivability has increased, but you have to be more concerned about it.
Yeah, could you imagine like running through a rift and like no health globes at all spawn, and you have to like solely rely on your either your regen or anything like that, but you ran through, like you could see like from the start of the rift to the end of the rift, you see your health going down, and you could like almost judge like how well you did depending on your health globe. It's like almost like you get one health globe for the entire rift.
That's kind of crazy.
It'd be neat. Yeah.
They would have to address a lot of classes like live and die by Reaper's reps.
Yeah, the resource issue.
Yeah, so if you get rid of health globes completely, you're also going to be like most Demon Hunter builds, because our hatred regeneration just flat out sucks. It's like health globes. That's the majority of how much hatred you actually get back. They'd have to kind of do some revamps on Demon Hunters if they want to reduce the number of health globes that actually spawn.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one counterpoint could be though that like it's time to find a new spec too, because there are plenty. And maybe it's still not enough, but there are ways for Demon Hunters to spec so that they're getting a lot of their hatred back. And obviously, it's still going to be very bursty. You're still going to have moments where you're low on resource for sure. But because they're also leveraging the bracer slot as one where they create a lot of innovative choices, who's to say that they can't do something where, similar to like Hexing Pants or what's that, Pride's Fall, the helm that kind of gets you some resource back. Maybe they throw something like that into the bracer slot as well for if they want to move into this gameplay where there really are no health globes or very, very few,
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't seen anything that says any item. I don't believe we have that's like gains resource on kill. So
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of what those bracers, like Reaper's Wraps, do, because you kill a monster, drops a health globe, and then you get it back. It's so if you could change them to like resource on kill. Yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'd be really excited to see kind of what the world looks like once that permanent CC type of gameplay is gone, because I think it will open up the door for different party comps for sure. You won't just see the same, like, I guess the only change that we saw this season so far is one more wizard instead of two DHs at some of the higher ends of pushing. But yeah, I'd be exciting to just see, maybe Barbs can finally get up into the top groups as well, and who knows what after that. And one thing I do want to comment on, because I know everyone is like hating on partying with Barbs because the whirlwinds are everywhere and the tornadoes, you can't see crap. Donvu did note that I think this is actually coming in patch, not 2.3, but the very next patch, the bug fix one, is that they're going to reduce some of the clutter that you get from the dust devils and all that. So you'll actually be able to see the frozen on the ground rather than just like, I wonder if it's there or not. I'm going to gamble. So that's a pretty exciting change, at least from my eyes as a Barb player right now, and wanting to still have friends at the end of the day. And I was also wanting to have us talk a little bit about the buff bar, because right now it's ridiculous, guys. Like this patch created a whole bunch of crazy items that are really good, but they all also create these buffs that we need to manage. So you're looking at Focus and Restraint, which is 2. Convention of so just talk about rings. Convention of Elements, which has its constant rotating, and you kind of want to know what's going on there. There's a buff from the Unhallowed Essence set that's always there on the bar. If you're playing with a Barb or something to give you impunity with Warcry, then you have that up. If you're using Wrath of Berserker, that's a buff. So, I mean, there's just so many there on the bar. Playing with a Monk, of course, you're going to have some there. Even when they activate the Mantra, or, the same for the Crusader, then that adds a second one. You could bump something potentially useful off the bar. So, Donvu noted it's a problem. He was saying maybe they could try to prioritize it. It'd be really hard for them because of the technology. It's just not there yet, I think was the actual quote. But to prioritize kind of like, the one that you need to see the most, pushing it up to the front. But are you guys kind of feeling the pain of not being able to manage your buffs on your bar?
Sorry. I guess for me, the only ones that I ever really needed to pay attention to were like the Focus and Restraint, and I was practicing with the Taiguk. And if you are in a party with a lot of buffs like that, if you ever let it drop off, then you're never going to see it again. That's just kind of getting to the habit of mentally telling yourself it's been 3 seconds. Go through and shoot something. But they're definitely. I think that there is, some place that they could go and improve it, where you have permanent buffs or long-term buffs, like a shout or a mantra, versus the short buffs that you get from items, such as the Convention of Elements, Taiguk, and other things of that nature. If they could maybe differentiate the buff bars, or maybe put some of the long-term buffs above the health globe in like a reduced status, just so you can kind of see that you're not in range or something along those lines. Yeah. They're definitely there's a lot of room for improvement. It's definitely come a long way, but it's been a point of contention for the community, since the game came out. I remember playing a Monk with the dang it, I forget the rune on the Triple Strike. I'm completely forgetting the names of all of the skills right now. There was one.
Fist of Thunder?
No, it wasn't Fists of Thunder. It was the other. It was the other one
Oh, Way of
that
100?
gave you like a
I don't know.
16% damage buff, and all that it did was put like a little faint green ring around your character. It never even put a buff on it. Let me see. Oh, yeah. It was Deadly Reach Foresight.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and just it didn't have a buff. There was just a little green ring around your character, and that was all that you had to indicate that you actually had the damage bonus rolling while you were playing. But again, that just kind of came down to mentally in your head, every 5 seconds I need to use this skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like as far as damage ones, like if it drops, it drops. But then there's like Roland's Crusader, where as soon as like something drops, you could fall flat on your face. You could just die instantly because it really relies on keeping up your defensive buffs. So, I mean, there's a difference. I mean, if they could separate those two, or make the icons smaller maybe and just like fit more on there, I don't know what would be the short term, I guess, until they actually get something figured out.
Right.
But
well, that's a good point too. That definitely there's a difference between the defense, and I guess here's the thing too, though, is like where do you even draw the line between defense and offense? Because let's take Wrath of the Berserker. That can go either way if you're using Insanity or Striding Giant.
Yeah.
right.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's just one of the things that I was thinking is just if you kind of separate the long-term buffs, like if the buff has over 30 seconds remaining on it, you kind of put it on a different bar off to the side that's smaller, because you don't really need to pay attention to that one because it's going to be there, for a lot longer as opposed to the shorter ones, and kind of give a priority on the buff bar just to time remaining. So just something like that, because that would even work in some of those instances for the Unhallowed set, where you have the damage bonus and the defensive bonus, as long as there's no monster within 10 yards of you. For that one, it's only a 4-second buff, even though it's up permanently. But as soon as a monster gets near you, you kind of need to know how long it is, whether I need to, vault if you have it, or just do something to get away to refresh the buff so I'm not going to be taking increased damage. So that'd be one of those ones that kind of would always be there, so you know whether it's up or not.
Right. One of the things that I kind of thought in the back of my head kind of cynically when you were talking about, when I'm using Taeguk or something, I kind of just get used to the durations of when I need to spend again before it drops off or something like that. I can just imagine there's a group of players that are just like, get good, learn to play. Like if you really want to manage them, just learn to actually manage them, because there are cues, there are timings, etc. So I assume as you get more comfortable and as you get more hours on a character, some of the stuff does come more naturally. But just in general, I think it's nice to kind of have, the days that you don't want to mentally focus on that section of your, on managing all those different timers and things. Maybe you want to play a little lighter, or like I always go back to that Netflix build. Like sometimes, man, I just want to know what's going on without knowing what's going on. So
that Netflix build.
But yeah, was there anything else that you guys wanted to take out of this player wave? I know we did want to tease Nevilistus because holy crap. That's a lot of dying, Death Maiden.
Yep.
She lived up to her name.
Very true.
And it was hilarious too when Don Boo called her out. Like it was funny.
Oh, just in time. There she is.
Oh, there she is. She heard her name. Oh man. I feel really bad saying this, but I felt like that. So watching that happen and still making it on the timer in terms of getting through those greater rifts, it felt like the best selling point for hardcore. Because like anything you do in softcore basically doesn't matter if you're in a group, because you just get pulled through these amazingly high, or not amazingly high, but you get pulled through these high greater rifts, and don't worry about it. You just die all the time. Your group will carry you. No big deal. I'm like, that wouldn't happen in hardcore. That player weight would have been done very early on. Just saying, man. I don't know.
I enjoyed them going up too. Like they actually tackled some pretty high, compared to the other ones that they've played. So I enjoyed that. I mean, even with the deaths. So.
No, it was cool at least to see kind of on the higher side of things, what the classes were doing and how they were adjusting the builds and things like that too. I definitely agree. All right, I suppose we can move on to other topics in the community. I actually wanted to take a quick break, if you will, to talk about some Blizz Pro things. And I guess for the show in particular, I wanted everyone to know that we did have an interview with Ro, who's in the podcast community. He runs the Realm Maintenance show. And just yesterday, we're recording this on Wednesday, of course. So yesterday being Tuesday, he released the episode that we were featured on. I believe it was episode 143, Workshop in Progress. So if you guys want to check that out, we talked about some possible expansion stuff, seasons in general, things that you're probably familiar with if you watch this show.
Yep, talked a little bit about the history of the show as well, where we started, where we've come from.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely cool, like catcher-upper, And of course, we want to support Realm Maintenance, which is a great podcast about podcasts.
Yeah, so if you don't know about the show, Realm Maintenance is kind of like the podcast that highlights other podcasts. It covers all of the Blizzard franchises, so it's not, obviously, the majority of the Blizzard community is World of Warcraft, so they cover a lot of topics on World of Warcraft. But StarCraft, Diablo, Heroes, Hearthstone, they go through, Ro over there, he goes through everything, and all of those. So it's always kind of a rotating schedule of, he'll touch on, big points from all the games on every episode, but also it's just a nice place if you're looking to find other podcasts to listen to. Realm Maintenance is a good one because you'll find more podcasts to listen to because he always goes through and highlights different ones within the community.
Absolutely. Check that out, Realm Maintenance. Also, I just wanted to highlight, we do have a couple of staff writers over on diablo.blizzpro.com who are putting together some great weekly pieces. We did pick up 3 days JPT, and he's been writing some build guides for you guys. So he covered the monk first, and he's going to rotate through. So if you guys have builds for classes that you're finding really enjoyable this season, I would definitely recommend checking out the Horadrim Corner. Throw it up on the screen here very quickly. Okay, maybe not. The window changed on me. I'll try and get that figured out in the meantime. But the Horadrim Corner is up there. He just did the support wizard with Del Sears, which I think has been really cool. I was playing with him when he was using it a little bit. Definitely a unique way to play the wizard, enabled completely with that set. If you guys want to check that out, definitely do. Usually goes up on Fridays. And then on Tuesday, Lieutenant Lunatic is doing his Transmog Tuesday. So if you think you have the best looking wizard, crusader, barb, whatever have you, go ahead and send your build, your Transmog build, if you will, over to Lieutenant Lunatic, because I know he's looking for submissions as well. I think he's actually a little backed up right now, so it might take some time before you see it, but definitely submit it. It'd be really cool to see everyone's stuff get featured.
I wonder how many of those are using Ashbringer. Just every single one is just Ashbringer.
Right.
Have there been any with the Ashbringer so far?
Well, actually, here's a fun fact. I don't think you can transmog into Ashbringer because it transforms, right? Or can you? Or is it the other way around? You can't transmog the Ashbringer because it transforms.
I believe I've transmogged a weapon to Ashbringer.
Oh, have you? Okay, so maybe
I don't think I've tried the opposite. So, because why would you?
Right? Yeah, it's the best.
So,
All right.
The only time that you'll ever transmog an Ashbringer is when they add the Frostmourne into the game.
Ooh, future hype.
Future hype.
All right. Next topic we have here, the whole Death's Bargain thing. We got some resolution on that. A bunch of hot fixes went live yesterday. Nineball, take us through kind of what is happening right now.
All right, so going through, there was a bunch of little bug fixes in Game Crash that the hot fixes went in, kind of took effect through. The biggest one, of course, going through, and they fixed the they fixed the exploit that between the Death's Bargain, the Rogar's Huge Stone, and the Wildebeest Gizzard. I believe it's now that the Death's Bargain legendary affix has now been reactivated.
Yes.
You can't get it to the obscene numbers, so that way you just walk through and hit everything for 1 trillion damage or what have you. But a lot of these hot fixes were based around there. Apparently there was a bug where some greater rifts would start with less than 15 minutes remaining. Apparently your Spectral Hound would despawn upon character death. I have to say that's not one that I've noticed because I didn't use a spectral hound. And then when you die, you lose on hardcore. When you die, you lose the character, so you'd have to resummon it anyways. And this one is actually interesting. Is apparently the 6-piece set bonus for Zunumasa's Haunt. If you're playing with multiple witch doctors using the same set, they would override one another. So only one witch doctor could ever actually benefit from the debuff at any one given point in time. So it's a nice little fix for witch doctors that like to run together. And just it's pretty much. Hopefully, the other big one is that the gelatinous sires. They now reduce the number of targets that they split into during multiplayer games, as well as they will now have a small time of invulnerability when they split.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a bug I actually highlighted on YouTube. If people saw that video, where the game literally would just freeze up for an upwards of like 15, maybe 30 seconds. So it was kind of scary and hardcore.
Yeah, there was also an issue where if you killed them too quickly, they wouldn't drop loot.
Oh wow, that's also that's maybe even worse.
Yeah, so apparently that was something. The way that they fixed it by giving them a small moment of invulnerability, it makes me think that the issue that was happening on the back end is that the creature would be created before it would have a chance to be assigned a loot table. And so now they're just giving it that small moment to allow the game to catch up with the creation of the mobs for it to die before it died, so that way it could still drop things.
Interesting. And yeah, right now I have up on screen, for those viewing here live, the update that kind of just gave some extra info on what was going on, like you were mentioning with the combination of Death's Bargain and Rogar's Huge Stone and Molten Wildebeest Gizzard, etc. And so they did finally fix it, and of course during the interim they realized that it was going to take a bit of time for them to get the fix done. So that's why you saw the Death's Bargain power get disabled. And sometimes it kind of sucks because maybe you're using that item and you're completely unaware of any of this happening. You're like, why doesn't my item work anymore? It's the one thing that I'm sure they want to avoid in the future, turning off items, because they always harp on that idea of you don't want a player to wake up and be less powerful. And of course, if you disable a power on a legendary that someone might be using and enjoying, then of course that creates that situation. So they had to do what they had to do, and then they finally got everything figured out here and fixed up, and now it's reactivated like you mentioned. And also, I just want to continue on the whole idea of this play nice, play fair thing that they're going through, and highlighting. They want these seasons and these leaderboards to be meaningful, and with that, the competition should be fair. And so, of course, like we saw previously with the Bloodshard exploit, there were actioned accounts. They went through and case-by-case basis evaluated these accounts and made sure that the people who needed to be held responsible for their actions were, of course, held responsible for their actions. And the same thing occurred here as well, too. So you saw a few players who used the exploit get either removed from the leaderboards or just, they're not going to go into super details on what happened to their accounts. But you can at least sleep safely and soundly at night knowing that the leaderboards are a little bit more legit. Which is good.
Yep, which is definitely good. So if you notice if there was a class that had like one person that was out there like 5 greater rifts ahead of everybody else and they're no longer there, well, you know what happened. Now you know. And knowing is half the battle.
That's right. All right, so do we want to get into our game, our whole purpose of show title for tonight?
Yes, let's do it.
All right,
let's get in there.
So in the community, an amazing thing was created. It's called the Kadala Simulator, and you can get to it with the world's most interesting domain name / website. It's called fightingdragonswithtaylorswift.com /Kadala. And at this site, you can actually gamble blood shards as if you were in the game, and you can choose which character, you can actually choose the gender, and if it's seasonal or hardcore, I'm not sure that has any effect, but hey, you want to absolutely accurately reflect what your character...
That would have a very small effect when gambling mysterious amulets.
Why?
Because hardcore has one additional legendary in the amulet slot.
Fair enough. I had not thought about that. So yes, you were right. So it's pretty awesome. I definitely recommend you guys trying it out. For the show tonight, I actually created a straw poll, which I'm going to throw into chat right now. And it's basically just asking you all who are here how many blood shards you think it'll take before we roll an Ashbringer, corrupted Ashbringer, like we were just talking about. You know, it's got the hype this season. Everyone loves it. And so we're going to try and roll one as we go through some of the player feedback and things here in the background. And I'll bring it up on screen when I actually finally get one. And we'll actually see how many people turn out to be right or wrong based on what you vote. So go ahead and get that done if you're here in chat. And that will be that.
I know that's only just beginning, but I already like the way the poll is going.
Let me throw it.
Ogchild's in the lead.
I had to throw in a little Ogchild, of course.
Yep.
It's a random option. So let's move into our feedback section. We had a couple of emails come in and mostly had a ton of items from you guys. You guys are clearly, you don't have time to talk to us. You were just farming the game. But we did get some interesting feedback. So Nineball, if you want to kick things off, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. Was there not anything else you wanted to discuss before we get into the community section?
Well, if you do have other news items, then please slow me down and go ahead.
No, it was pretty much that. That pretty much covered it for the news. I just wanted to know if you wanted to still talk about your thoughts on legendary gems and such.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course I was like, well, I'm sure with the player way we'll get into it. So yeah, I guess that is a topic for discussion currently. It could have tied into when we were talking about the removal of permanent CC and things like that, and then what we'll see. Because one of the questions I did throw out was maybe what items or gems or things we think might take to the forefront. But yeah, again, I was talking to JH, as I like to every now and again, and we were talking about how Bane of the Trapped is just by far the greatest offensive gem. Like, you'd be crazy not to take it if you want offense in your build. So my thought is, how do we fix this? How do we make it so that there's competition for Bane of the Trapped? Some of the people that may not, dive too deep into the game, maybe don't understand the categories of how damage is calculated. And so maybe that's something we can talk about, like the difference between Taeguk and Bane of the Trapped and why Bane of the Trapped will always be better than Taeguk, etc. So if you guys have any thoughts, I kind of just want to open up the conversation that way.
Oh, well, I guess, for that, it's really hard because they want to make legendary gems that aren't just a flat damage bonus, which is what Bane of the Trapped is, and you have a difficult time competing with something that's just a flat damage bonus, which, it's like at the higher levels, so just, here, your damage is increased by 30%, so they have to make a gem that increases your damage by 31% in order to be better than Bane of the Trapped. And then, we mentioned this, I guess, a little bit before, but one of the things that, we talked about, the Bane of the Stricken. It competed. It was better, but it was too good, so they removed it. So
it's that fine line, right? Like, do you want, and I guess this is kind of what we're seeing with the sets and stuff too, because I saw someone complaining recently that, they felt bad that, or not bad, they kind of felt weird that Fireburst is just like not even a thing anymore. Like, no wizard uses it. They're like 0%, and maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. But as these new sets are introduced, they're definitely, if they're not invalidating other sets, they're at least putting them further down the totem pole. I feel like that's a fair statement. So I guess the question that I'm still trying to get to the answer to is, do we want to take Bane of the Trapped and just unseat it, or do we create competition for it? And is it too hard to create competition for it to the point where you just have to make something better?
Monstrous, do you have any ideas?
I think it will come back to you when they do decide to remove perma CC. I think that will kind of open up a little bit of options too, because you can't just go strictly damage anymore. You've got to actually maybe, I guess there is some CC within gems themselves, but there's also a lot of defensive ones. I personally I liked Ice Blink this season. I don't know why, but I mean I like that gem. I like the idea of it adding crit instead of just like a straight up damage boost, because like I mean crit could mean could open up some other, like if there's something activated on crits or anything like that, it kind of like adds a little bit of interesting gameplay, and it could be used in some builds like later on. I don't know. Like there's other things that they can do with them that's not strictly just damage that could open up some things later on. But yeah, you were gonna say, sorry?
It's funny because a lot of the top end Demon Hunter builds, for the Natalia set, is using Ice Blink to trigger Bane of the Trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're using Ice Blink. They're using the Ice Blink gem, for really nothing more than make it so that way Evasive Fire Focus, which is a cold-based skill that doesn't apply a slow, applies a slow. Just so that way they can go through and get the slow affecting targets for Bane of the Trap to come in and trigger for when they're going and, dropping Rain of Vengeance down on targets. So it's, it's kind of interesting. That's just kind of like how powerful, like, Bane of the Trap really is, that they're willing to give up a legendary gem slot. It does have a little bit of CC, and like you said, it does offer the 10% additional crit chance, but it's kind of there solely to trigger Bane of the Traps. Although I do like how a lot of the sets have changed up the meta. So even though Bane of the Trapped is included still in almost every build, that the secondary gems are kind of like thrown into chaos. As like the Demon Hunter build, Ice Blink is really popular in hardcore. The Wildebeest Gizzard or the Mutilation Gem is very, very popular. Taiguk is being seen in a lot more builds than it was previously, so it's I guess it's kind of cool, that you have these sets that have gone through and have changed your gameplay up to make the other ones more powerful. But really, is there anything yet to compete with Bane of the Trapped? Do they have to come out with something that's just, it's like, your damage against uncrowd controlled minions is increased by, X plus 1, where X is Bane of the Trapped, just so that way you want to fight things that aren't CC. I have no idea. Or will it eventually get to the point where there's just no other choice besides going and nerfing Bane of the Trapped, just to kind of bring it more in line with everything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting. I remember early on, a lot of people were hot on the heels of Bane of the Powerful. Like, oh, this is amazing. We're going to get extra elite damage. We're going to get this extra damage all the time. And then, of course, it doesn't scale as well. And I think that's probably one of the things to consider, too, is that Bane of the Trap just keeps getting better. And there's no, like, real condition on stopping it from getting better, aside from that activation. But, of course, the other half of it activates itself if you're in that range. And then if you're not in that range, then like you mentioned, people are using other methods to have it get activated so that they can use it. So yeah, it is kind of crazy that it just never gets bad. And so maybe that's something to consider. But I would really hope that they take the harder route of not nerfing it, but rather trying to create something a bit more compelling. And I do like the idea that Nolan's throwing out there in terms of, stuff that maybe does it, you might consider it to be more utility. So like the Ice Blink, where you get the freeze, but then it also enables crit, and then maybe crit enables your Pain Enhancer to work a little bit better and things like that. Because then you're getting some synergy not only within your possibly the way that the skills you might use, but also the other gems you might use too. And then maybe at that point, they create another gem that works on crit and it's super good. And then all of a sudden you're taking Ice Blink and you're taking Pain Enhancer and you're taking this other gem. And it's like, well, I'm not even using Bane of the Trapped anymore. Yeah,
that would be an interesting thing to go through and create combos. You not necessarily have to make one individual gem that competes with Bane of the Trapped, but like a trifecta of gems that would give you a more overall bonus than going and using it. Obviously, there's another idea of if you wanted, like, what was it from a while ago? I think it was one of the Play Your Ways. It was the Play Your Way with John Yang talking about. Someone had asked if you had. Legendary gems with set bonuses. If you actually made like a 3-piece set bonus with legendary gems, it's kind of like Rune Words, but if you did something along those lines, that would make it to where, Bane of the Trapped might not have a place just because the individual gems aren't as good, but again, your combination of them together will be more powerful.
Yeah.
By your powers combined.
I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
like they could. I mean, I'm like a huge fan of items that. Did you get it?
81,000.
I beat you a long time ago.
Ah,
It's
damn
not
it.
bad.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of like items that like actually change the way like a skill works or something. And I mean, it's hard to do that because you can't have like one gem that changes the way a skill works for every class. I mean, that would be insane.
Mm-hmm.
But like class specific gems or like things like that actually change up like a way a rune works or activates a rune or something like that. Those would be kind of cool. Or if there's like an actual gem that did what the Royal Ring did, that would be interesting. That would definitely be a slot that would people would sacrifice possibly some damage to pick up another item or something like that.
Definitely.
Or even I hope we see more weapon specific gems. So we're not always going for the emerald. There could be something else in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would definitely be nice if we see like in season 4, we have like 3 new weapon gems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember. I think it was it might have been the Legendary Workshop post-mortem that they did after BlizzCon, where John Yang, I think, mentioned, the Gem of Ease was kind of their experiment with putting something in weapons and seeing if it would take off or not in terms of a legendary gem. And of course, like they chose a case that was really hard to fail, right? Like everyone who's going to level up any alt or hardcore characters that are going to come back from death, of course you're going to use the Gem of Ease. And then we actually saw it gain more utility when people started to figure out its usefulness inside of Greater Rifts at that nice mid-tier where they could leverage tons of experience off of it. So it's cool that it gained another purpose besides the obviously intended one of leveling up other lower characters from 1 to 70 very quickly. But I think that's kind of like the floodgate. Like they opened the door and they definitely could and should do more in the weapon slot. And yeah, like Nolan, you just mentioned, they would definitely... hopefully potentially get rid of emeralds as the best choice by far right now. So yeah, I don't know. I want to open that up as a topic because we every now and again we do like to say like, hey, give us some feedback on things. So this is something I'd love to hear from the community on as well. I know we've gotten similar to the idea that Nolan threw out with creating a gem that would take the Ring of Rogrander's power and just being able to put that on in a socket of another ring or something to that effect. So yeah, if you guys want to send us some feedback on that and ideas that you have, things you've thought of, Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. You can even tweet it at us if you think you can fit it in 140 characters. That's the WM Workshop. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys on this topic as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this would be fun to go through and see ideas on how to go through and tackle that issue.
And I have the straw poll results, which I'll throw up here first on screen. And the majority of people thought over 9,000. I mean, over 7,575, which is 101 plus rolls. Obviously, it seems like it should be the answer because it's super hard to get a corrupted Ashbringer. And then a lot of pessimists saying we'll never see one, never. Ogchild's bringing it in third.
Yay!
Ogchild's. And then some of the other options. No one voted for less than 1,500 because they had no faith that we could get it in 20 rolls. And you were right. I feel like I did get it rather quickly. I got it in 288 rolls, which equates to 21,600 blood shards.
Yeah, and then I hit it at 81,000 exactly.
And let's see, so that's pretty much like 4 times what I had, so over 900 rolls.
Yeah.
It's over 900.
I didn't even try it. I already have an ancient one on my season, so...
Oh, yeah, this guy.
Oh, this guy.
I've already got an ancient one. I don't need to play this game.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love it. Well, thank you guys for playing along in our little mini game. Hopefully you played at home, too, for those listening later on in iTunes and Stitcher and whatnot. Let us know what your results were, if it was absolutely impossible for you, or if you got it like in your first 2 rolls. It'd be nice to know. And I think from there, we can go ahead and hop into our player feedback that we received, listener feedback.
Yeah, we're good to go over on that one.
I think there was one other topic that you mentioned, that the new items on the Blizzard store.
Oh, yeah!
More importantly, the goblin piggy bank.
That sweet
Yep.
treasure goblin.
Yeah,
I saw you were hyped about that.
I'm super hyped. What I want, like, this is, I don't want to do it to mine, but I want to get one, fill it with coins, then take a baseball bat and just smash it open just to, you know, I mean, I would pay someone to do that. Not as much as the piggy bank's worth, though, or I do it myself. But yeah,
There's got to be someone willing to go and make that YouTube video for like the views that they would get on that.
they
right?
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that old YouTube channel that was like the Smash My iPhone?
What? I never heard of this.
Oh, there's some guy that, he took donations, and he got enough money, well, more than enough money, that I think it was like the second generation iPhone. He went out, bought one, and then immediately destroyed it, like out in front of the store on camera, and posted the video on YouTube.
Yeah, people in line were watching him, and not everybody in the line got one, and he was smashing his when he got it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, he did that a couple other times. Like, he did it with the Wii and, like, the PS3 and some other things or whatever.
Yeah, he just loves to smash things, huh?
No, I mean, he was getting paid to do it, so wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess that's true. The right incentive.
Mm-hmm.
I did throw the link up, or the page up on our show here, so you can see this goblin is priced at a very affordable $29.99, and for those of you who are fans of BlizzPro, you can actually use the BlizzPro code on checkout. It's just BLIZZPRO. Caps. I don't know if it needs to be in caps, but throw it in caps because you're super excited anyways, and you'll get a 10% discount. So you'll take $3 off of this guy. And then, of course, you can smash one because you just save money on it.
Yeah,
Yep.
obviously.
There it is.
If you buy 10, you'll gotten enough discount to get the 11th free. So you can then go and smash that one. And then you have 9 others to go and give away as birthday presents to your friends.
9. Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
There's 9-ball math for you guys.
Yep.
Too bad they didn't come in different flavors of the flavor goblins.
The flavor goblins.
The treasure goblins. They multiply the money that you put in, or stuff like that.
Teaching people compound interest and stuff on gelatinous sires.
Yeah.
That'd actually be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Treasure Goblin teaches math. It'd be like Mario teaches typing, but way better.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it does make sounds too. So I kind of want to get one of these. I think maybe we can even get one and give it away or something. I don't know. Feeling kind of generous on that. So
yeah, I would feel very conflicted because my current piggy bank is a stormtrooper.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Get nerd cred, but I mean, this is a Diablo podcast.
It is a Diablo podcast. It is.
You might have to switch.
You could also go through and use that 10% off code, and you can grab some of the pint glasses and the Diablo mugs, which are like amazing.
Yeah, you use the mug, right?
Yes. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I love mine.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. All right, so yeah, go out and get your goblins. If you get one, let us know too. Send that in as feedback. I'd love to see it. If you smash it, especially, we definitely want to see it.
We will show your video and then cry.
We will cry.
But we will show it.
Mm-hmm. One man tier.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now feedback.
Now feedback?
Question mark. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Electric.
All right.
Let's do it.
I guess I will go through and I will start off.
All right.
We have this is going for like a combo here. He's on a killing spree. We have Psycho, our little Iron Wolf out in the desert. He goes through and writes, "Sup, fellas. Despite the heat, diligently watching for any writhing deceivers and a 7-hour time difference from Eastern Westmarch, I can usually catch the shop about a day or so after you air originally. You both help pass the time for me, so thank you." So literally early today, the day I actually watched the shop, I finished Moon and the Spider. First, I hate spiders, creepy things, but I managed to make it through. Second, Humbart is hilarious. He is probably one of the best characters in the book. And third, the conflict between Zale and, I'm going to butcher this, Charybdis?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. And just kind of the conflict between them, and they're aiming for the balance, can just go in so many vastly different ways. And he just is very intrigued by that. And for spoilers, for anyone that's never read any of the books, Zale and Charybdis are both necromancers. With Charybdis, would use a kind of a forbidden spell that he would banish the souls of the evil and like destroy them. But it would also leave an imprint of their soul upon his own person, and has kind of gotten to the point where he's broke, more or less. And so he sees that the necromancers have spent too much time fighting against the demons, that we're sending sanctuary at too much towards the angels, and that in order to maintain the balance, he has to let evil into sanctuary in order to kind of like keep things, equal. Not so much fighting in order to keep the influence out of sanctuary. It's like, we've been doing too much good, we have to do some evil now. And how it kind of like has warped his thinking, and so he goes to let loose a greater demon in Westmarch in order to go through and destroy everything, which was actually really, really sad they didn't touch upon anything of the Moon of the Spider story, and all the little lore books throughout Reaper of Souls didn't touch upon kind of like that spider invasion that went on, because Westmarch was assaulted by hundreds of thousands of little demonic spiders. Just imagine that.
Wow.
Just like a carpet of spiders going over the city walls and covering the city.
Sounds like my nightmare.
I'm sure people will sleep pleasantly tonight. But yeah, he was very much intrigued about that, and kind of like how different interpretations of what balance could be taken, and how it looks into the culture behind the followers of Rathma, or the necromancers. And then he also wanted to go through and say that he too he started playing the Diablo series on the PS1.
Nice.
I started there too.
Wow, so
Yes.
many of you. What?
So many of us.
So it was hard. It was really hard, like on PlayStation.
Yeah.
It was super hard. Yeah.
The game was bad on the PlayStation. It was not designed for it. It's like playing StarCraft on the N64. There's just some things you don't do.
Yeah.
That's so not like before any of you, I had never heard of anyone playing D1 on the PlayStation, like period, much less that was their first brush with the game. It's kind of crazy.
I never had a computer, or even I lived on a farm, so I didn't have internet or anything well, it was almost before that, like internet was even like available to a lot. But kind of dating myself there, but yeah, it was awesome. Just I played for hours on that.
That's so
And
cool.
I think I still have the discs floating around too. But
Yeah, that was one of those things. Definitely, it was 1997 that I could not afford a computer.
yeah,
There you go.
Computers are always going to be expensive, but you kind of have to look before like 2002 to really understand like how expensive computers could be, when a low-end desktop was like almost $3,000.
yeah.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
my computer struggled to like we had a computer, but it struggled to like run like King's Quest. So like so like that, like PlayStation, that was where I mean we would go over to friends' places and play Diablo, but I wanted to play at home, and that was how I played it. So
Right on. Super cool.
Yep.
All right, let me take us into the next feedback that we got. We like we were talking about last episode, there was a bit of hubbub in the community regarding achievements and how they changed for this season 3, and the fact that there are just way fewer of them, and they're more suited towards hardcore, in quotes, with the lowercase h players. And so Lala wrote into the show and just kind of had some further thoughts on the topic. So I have some crib notes here from her email, and basically she originally liked the change because it meant that there was going to be less spam from everyone dinging their achievements on your friends list and the clan, etc., because it wasn't just doubling up on those non-seasonal ones, season, etc., etc. And so that was kind of a nice change. But then once you started to think about it a little deeper, and once she started to read through some of the forums and see the perturbation and the nastiness of people being upset about this, it kind of started to make more sense, because there's just a lack of achievements, so there are way less to achieve in the course of the season. And if you think about someone, actually, I went to one of the forum posts that she provided, and someone noted that in season 2, the number one person on the achievement leaderboard had 8,280 points, and number 1,000 had 4,910. So the difference between them was 3,370, and then you divide that by 10, so that's 337 achievements that was different between them. And I guess there aren't even that many achievements now after the rework in seasons. So like that situation can never happen. It basically narrows the gap quite a bit between people that want to compete for it. And one of the points that Lala did make was that anyone that's trying to make like a late push on the achievements and stuff, like they probably just will already be kind of SOL, because there's just not that much you can do to like come back late in the game and like say, I'm just going to do a ton of achievements. So that was one of the things that she noted. One thing that I kind of wanted to counterpoint in the email, she was saying that some of them are more suited towards kind of that hardcore style of play, because some players, most players perhaps, aren't going to touch High Torment at all. Some of them aren't going to go and level up gems to Greater Rift 40. They're not going to get into Greater Rift 40, etc. So, those achievements are going to be kind of out of their reach. And this seems to kind of counterpoint the fact that these achievement leaderboards seem to be intended originally for players that weren't about, or at least were not focused on grinding the game super hard, weren't focused on gearing up a ton. And so they kind of moved more in that direction for this leaderboard in particular. But I did want to comment at least that, I mean, those are kind of tied to Conquest too. Yes, they do give achievement points, so there is that tie-in. But because they're Conquest, I feel like they need to kind of have that like higher echelon of achievement tied towards them. And then lastly from the email was that right now there's actually a bug with the achievement leaderboard, just to kind of make matters even worse. So it hasn't been updating. And so people don't actually know where they are in terms of, they can see their own leaderboard or their own achievement numbers. But if you go to the actual leaderboard itself, it might not actually display the amount that you have. And as you gain more, it's still not necessarily showing that amount. So it's kind of a tough spot that things are in right now.
Yeah. I definitely can see kind of like the other side of the argument of people that just want to do achievements and how they are being forced into a much higher level of play because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the fact, I think one thing to consider too, and Lala kind of touches on this as well, is the shortening of the achievement. Let's say you are that hardcore lowercase h player, and so you're going after these achievements right away. It's at least a 4-month season, and because you just have less achievements in total, that means by the time you finish them all, the season might not be nearly developed as if you were trying to chase through. I mean, you can go back to season 1 and you say like, well, there are people who got them in the first few weeks or the first month or whatever as well, but I just think it kind of exacerbates that issue even further, because now you're really maybe homogenizing is not the right word, but you're kind of lowering the density of achievements, and therefore there's not as much to do. And so once it's done, if you're an achievement hunter, then what do you do for the rest of the season? Do you just stop playing?
Yeah, I guess at that point you go back to your non-seasonal character.
Just seems like a tough sitch. Monstrous, do you have any thoughts on this? Or
Yeah, honestly, like I'm like I haven't really gone and done the whole like hunt for every achievement I can, like not yet, because I'm more focused on pushing myself in greater rifts, and I get a lot of like searching for items, and when you're trying to go for the achievements, you're not really you kind of take away from the most efficient way to get gear and things like that. So there's, I mean, eventually I will get to the point where later in the season where I'm like, okay, I've got all the items I need and I've kind of made my push, and you kind of want to do something else. But I do agree that there is kind of like now, but with power creep, I mean, with power creep, more people they can get there. Like this season was crazy with the power creep. So that level 40 greater rift, that tier, it's more obtainable, I guess, now than it's ever been. So I mean, there's a lot of with every season that new achievements are added. I mean, you have to compare them, I guess, to how easy they were to get in the last season prior. So
previously, yeah,
yeah.
It's not a bad point.
But I'll get there. I mean, I'm not like you guys that chase down the. I've never attempted even speed racer. I've seen people. I've watched people. But it does look fun. I mean, I will get there, but I mean, yeah, I'm not going to be one of the first people like you guys.
I hear you. I mean, one thing that I did want to kind of close out the convo on this thing is, oh man, what was I just gonna say? I kind of lost my train of thought, so maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe we should move on. But I feel bad. Okay, let's move on. I'm sorry.
All right. Moving on. This one comes from Boel. I think I pronounced that one right. Maybe.
Maybe.
Morning, folks. Great show, and it is nice to hear about Diablo from some Diabros, as it were. But he wants to get down to it. He has a couple points that he wants to make. Number one, Demon Hunter is the greatest class and a gift from the gods. Number two, the Shadows Mantle is hot garbage. Number three, the Demon Hunter looks badass holding a dagger. And number four, I really miss the D2 Assassin. So his idea basically revolves around the Shadows Mantle eventual rework, increasing it out to a 6-piece bonus, and then going and making it a melee Demon Hunter set. You know, having like a legendary affix on one of the pieces that allows you to equip a quiver while holding a dagger. And that's actually an idea that I've actually thrown out in a couple of episodes in this past year is, you know, like why don't you have a quiver like called the Bandolier? It's a quiver that you can use while having a one-handed melee weapon, and just kind of opening up some playstyles from there. But his thoughts on it were just making it kind of like a build centered entirely around Impale. And he knows that since it's a single target skill, it's going to absolutely suck, but we're not trying to clear greater rifts, we're just trying to have fun. And so it's just wanting to go through and say some of the set bonuses that he had the ideas for is that Smoke Screen now lasts a second longer. Probably never going to happen. Just throwing that one out there.
It's like the return to a vanilla smokescreen.
Pretty much. Infinite smokescreen. Okay, thanks, bye. Set piece number 4 is going to be equipped enemies hit by spike trap, caltrops, or bolas give you some sort of combo counter, and your next attack that is not bolas deals 200% more damage per combo counter. So just kind of like going through and by throwing caltrops or bolas or spike trap, you get this stacking damage bonus, so that way when you throw your impale, it's going to kill whatever it hits. And then finally, hitting an enemy with impale while in smoke screen deals 400% extra damage bonus and poisons the enemy for X% weapon damage over 3 seconds. Well, you know, whatever X would have. So it's kind of like about being in smoke screen and doing damage. I think the way that kind of the Shadows Mantle is set, probably Shadows Power would work better for it. Maybe instead of like your 2-piece set bonus could just be, you know, like the current set bonus, you gain like all the rune effects for smoke screen to give you that kind of defensive passive, but also maybe throwing something on there that made it so smoke screen also gave you offensive capabilities. I have always liked the kind of like that intrigue of a melee Demon Hunter and doing something that can make it work.
I like the fantasy that's kind of presented in this setup, just because just thinking about it in Smokescreen, it almost reminded me of like an assassin coming out of, you know, the shadows, if you will, and then just slicing your neck and you're done. So it's kind of cool that there's that synergy, that interplay there. Just reading some of the suggestions coming from chat with this too. You know, Mikey's saying maybe you could have
Pierce.
Yeah, have it pierce. Yep. So then you're kind of adding some AOE there. It's an interesting idea. I do like your idea too, to kind of, because it is the shadow set, having shadow power make its way into there. Maybe both of those gain an extra second, or can you make shadow power permanent? No, right?
With some cost reduction. Yeah. I mean, there's also, I guess, just some of those other ones where there's the prep rune that gives you the discipline over time. Some people were having that to they were using it with a lot of cooldown reduction to effectively have infinite discipline, so they could have smoke screen up every time that it was off of cooldown for some of the Nats builds.
Interesting.
You know, so you could since Shadows Shadow Power lasts longer, that would be even easier to do. maybe something that just reduces the cost or goes back to one of the original set piece bonuses where it just made it permanent. But I kind of like the idea of having, you know, like Impale as like a big damage dealer. Maybe having it pierce, or say when Impale hits an enemy, have like a frost arrow effect where it will then go out and hit other enemies around you. And they have a rune on Impale, I believe, that allows you to stun.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine having that with a Haunt of Voxo, so it goes through and creates clones, and now your clones are all going through and popping out Impales that then are splintering out and hitting other enemies.
It almost reminds me of like a throwback to the Javazon of D2 in a way too, because you know they would throw out Titan's Revenge, and then I think there was one skill in particular where it would split. It was like the lightning one. You would attack one enemy and then it would split. So that could be interesting too. Yeah, I really like that.
The whole idea kind of reminds me of when the design of Legendary, when there's a huge uproar over Demon Hunters not being able to use the sword.
Yep.
And they're like, make it so Demon Hunters can use it, make it, and it didn't happen. But I think it opened, like, I mean, I would love to see that on a class, but I'd also like to see another class introduced later on, maybe that kind of fills that fantasy, but more of like a rogue or something like that, but pirate something.
Pirate.
Yeah.
There are pirates in Diablo.
There are. Derek Lang can attest to that.
Yep.
For the lore nerds out there.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. Pirate class next expansion.
Yeah.
Scoville's Island.
Yeah, man. It would make perfect sense.
Yeah. It would.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a nice tie-in. All the people going through and talking about Scovos Islands always seems to be a popular one that gets brought up. I would personally, I'd like to see what was it, Ure? That was kind of shown in the debut cinematic. There's the Kingdom of Shadow over in what is that, Eastern Kyrgyzstan. I think that would open up a lot of very interesting things to center the next expansion on that area.
Yeah, actually, Nolan, there was one more comment because in the player way they were talking about the Ruins of Secheron, and that's going to be an upcoming zone for one of the next patches. We can kind of branch into some expansion, because it seems like we never put it on the list, but we always end up talking about some expansion ideas, no matter what. So you guys are really into the lore. You guys know it kind of like the back of your hand. So what other possible areas, and even if it's not necessarily centered around the next expansion, but maybe like maps that get introduced into greater or regular rifts, greater rifts, etc., what could you see in terms of environments or cities or towns or whatever have you?
I'll let you start. Go ahead.
Okay, I think with the introduction of the Ruins of Secheron being, you know, added in as a content patch, not being a full-fledged act, but just a new zone within the act and a completely new tile set, as well as the cesspools, that they have, you know, given themselves that freedom, or at least kind of opened their eyes that they're willing to go through and make custom tile sets that they can just go and add into the game. So we could, you know, very easily get Ura or the Scovos Isles, Karost, you know, all these places that we're intimately familiar with, either from the lore or the stories, or not everybody, if you haven't read the books, just, you know, kind of being thrown out there as this is a Greater Rift tile set, or it's just a new place to go and do bounties without actually being a full-fledged act. They definitely have that ability to do. If the second expansion, you know, is kind of like, I guess, what the rumors all kind of going through, and just how they set up StarCraft 2 is just 2 expansions and they're done. If this is going to be like the last expansion for Diablo 3, and they want to tie up the story, you know, Leah's story, I think that the majority of it is going to be focused around Hell itself. And us, you know, going to Hell to try and find Leah's soul. And that's another one of those things I think would tie in really well with Ura, just because it is a portal to Hell. You know, so it'd be a very easy place to get there, you know, from, you know, going that route.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's strictly Hell, because it could be very much like Reaper's Souls, where they it was more like they introduced the class, and then they had like the zone and the areas all mapped around that certain class, like with the introduction. So I mean, if they introduce like the druid or the necromancer, they could go to more to like the swamp, or they could go to the far east for the druid, and or they can go down if they were going to introduce like an Amazon, they could go down into the Scrovos Isles and stuff. But then they could all tie that up into a hunt for like Leah's soulstone or her soul or something like that, and lead into hell. So there's a lot of things that they can do, and they probably will do something. I mean, I love their stories, so they won't disappoint. But,
They have, you know, a very large portion of the game world that's never even been touched.
Yeah.
You know.
World of Diablo.
Make it happen.
Yeah. But even with this latest patch, they introduced a couple new maps and zones that they put into rifts and greater rifts, which really like freshened up them. Like, I mean, even just having a couple new maps that you run into, like the Stinging Winds or the desert. Yeah. That one, like, I love that one. Like, there's so many chests in that one, and you just like, I just love it. It's really fresh to see that, and I hope they continue doing that, and especially once they introduce the barbarian zone, which is going to be awesome.
Definitely.
So, yeah,
I've been liking the Act 1 zone that they added in. I keep wanting to say Weeping Hollow.
With the ancients with
the one with the ancients.
Are we all blanking on this?
Gosh, you know, we spent so much time going through and farming Nephilim Valor stacks in that
right?
Classic, you know.
So someone in chat will save us.
I know.
Someone in chat. We all just have to give back our Diablo cards right now.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for the answer, though, I just really like that one because it's
Festering
Woods. Yes.
Congratulations. The Master Pants is the Diablo Pro that we deserve.
Yes, indeed. But I love because the density in there is pretty crazy at times. You'll get a ton of elite packs, kind of almost coming from all corners, and you know, thankfully it's T6, so it's not too scary. But man, you can get some crazy killing, some massacre bonuses, and just nuts in drops if you're getting lucky and stuff too. So definitely agree that Monstrous. It's been a pleasure to see that diversify the pool a bit.
Yeah,
I've noticed kind of in the same vein that you don't really see the cesspools almost any at all. It seems like it's maybe one of the rare spawns. I know they had maybe decreased it for a while because there was that frame rate issue with it. But even when
there was the frame rate issue, they just completely removed it for the pool before they added it back in.
Yeah, I seem to find it a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm just lucky, I guess. I wouldn't say lucky, but yeah. But yeah.
I guess your mileage may vary, right?
Yeah, I hope they do introduce some more, like, some rare ones. Like you were saying, you had a hard time finding the cesspools, but like the cow level or things that like random ones that you run into that are almost as rare as finding or as gambling Ashbringer. Things like that, like something that you don't normally run into, but when you do, it's awesome. That could liven up them.
Yeah, they should go through and remake all of the D2 zones for D3 and add them in as rifts.
That would be a cool long-term thing. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think that like the one place that I would absolutely love to see is just the tombs from Act 2. Like, as you know, a new type of rift zone, just having to go through like all of those like broken down like Egyptian sepulcher type places, you know.
But a twist on it, they don't update the graphics at all. It's just it's just your 3D character running around on. Yeah.
Oh man.
And then, you know, to save them time from going and adding in the actual scarabs, they just use the B model. So the wasps are all electrified when you go and kill them, just to add more love for them.
Can we also make them just as big as the scarabs are too? So it's just the stuff of nightmares? Yeah.
Yep. And, you know, I think at that point they'd be big enough that the little bees that they shoot out could be big enough to shoot their own bees.
Inception beast.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that my RNG luck makes it so that this rare map that we're creating, I would never see it, because that sounds awful. I do like the idea of D2 maps. That'd be cool.
Oh, and they have to put the maggot layer back into the game.
That'd be sweet. All right. We have one more feedback here that's actually a little video contribution. So something that we were just talking about previously was the whole idea with the buff bar, and sometimes you don't see the ones that you want to see. This player, Toby, also goes by Jarpy, has issues with his convention of the elements and making sure that he knows which rotation it's on and whatnot. So he actually created a video of the song that he created, which was just a splicing of the Four Seasons from Vivaldi, in order to know when it changes. So when the music changes, he knows it's on the next element. And I thought this was really cool at first, and I listened to it for a while, and I was like, man, I could get tired of this very quickly if it was playing in my whole play session. Like, maybe he doesn't play a lot, but I could see like 10 hours. You know how like people do like 8 hours of that jazz song or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do it.
Sorry.
I couldn't do it. But regardless, this is actually a really cool idea, and I like the inventiveness of like, well, if the buff bar's not going to show me, then I'm going to find a new way to make sure I know. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and play a little bit of this for us, and hope you guys enjoy it. And that's the wrong window.
Oops.
So for those who are listening, it's also just going through and changing as you see the elements changing on the screen. And I'm realizing you guys actually can't hear anything, so it's just beautiful silence over there.
Yep. I did link the video in chat there, Monstrous, if you want to check it out.
Check it out.
Alright, so you guys kind of get the idea. It's just his wizard going through and using that. Oh no, Skype went crazy on us. I'm gonna revert.
As expected.
As expected.
As expected.
So I'll go ahead and revert to your still pics. Hopefully you guys don't mind. But yeah, so that you could see the wizard was kind of utilizing different skills as the song cue and the elemental cue changed and whatnot. So it was a pretty cool idea. Good work on you, Jarpy. Hopefully there's a solution in the future where you don't actually have to create an entire song/genre of music in order to get this done.
Yeah. Either that, or if you could create, like, I don't know, a 2-hour mix of 4-second clips. I have no idea. That would be. You'd spend the whole season making the song, and then like 5 minutes actually playing.
Playing the game.
Yeah.
Just in time for them to update the bar.
I like Mikey's idea. I'm gonna take that idea, but instead of music, I'll just record myself screaming "Fire, lightning, physical, cold" for 4 seconds.
That's actually hilarious. Oh man.
Yep.
All right. Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it sounds a lot like WoW, like with the add-ons and stuff. Adding all those in, deadly boss mods, telling you, screaming at you to get out of fire and stuff. Yeah.
I have to say, I'm actually, not having played WoW in a while, I'm glad to not have to use or rely upon deadly boss mods. There are some things I would like mods in Diablo, but there are other times I'm glad they're just not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hear you guys on that.
Yeah. So that was the last of our feedback. I guess we've got items?
Items of the week. Yes. We'll cruise through. We have a ton. Thank you guys so much for your contributions. I'll use this moment, of course, to say if you want to contribute either to our feedback in our email section, definitely feel free. Send stuff over to westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Also send things to Twitter, the WM Workshop. We've been getting items sent over there too, which is cool. Sometimes we reply in real time or retweet things that are just super cool. So definitely feel free to utilize either of those mediums. We'd love to communicate with you guys, and we hope you like to do the same. Head on over to items of the week. Here is our weekly Ancient Furnace.
Dun, dun,
Dun, dun,
dun.
dun, every time. And now I'm putting it first every time now because we just got to motor through it, right?
Let's get them out of the way.
Get 'em
Just
out of
go
the way.
through, show them. There they are.
So this one's unrolled at this moment. It's a 3,801.5 DPS Ancient Furnace presented to us by Hellpop. Thank you so much for sending this in. And it's got 1,443 intelligence, 34,473 life per hit, 7% cooldown reduction on there, and actually on the secondary, a really high 5% chance to fair on hit. And his legendary power for the damage against elites is actually very high too, at 49%. Not too shabby. So thank you for sending that in, Hellpop. Definitely appreciate it. We're going to move to our second item, which is a Mars Kaleidoscope from the console version. And this one was submitted by at Geror45. So thank you for submitting this. It's Mara's, which is the Poison Immunity Amulet. It's got 713 dex. Rerolled a perfect 100% critical hit damage on there, so congrats on that. It's a feat in itself. 10% critical hit chance and a socket naturally on there. And then his secondary is some health gold, life bonus, and he's using a pain enhancer. And of course, like we were talking about before, Mars is actually one of the best immunity amulets, if not the best immunity amulet.
Yep, just because of how many bosses there are that do poison damage.
So a very nice find, and nice to have a good version of one of these if you're not going to then either go on for Hellfire amulets or you just haven't had luck with Hellfires. On to the third item of the week. We have an Ancient IK Boulder Breaker, and I'm sure we'll be seeing many, many more of these as the season goes on. These barbs are crazy popular right now. This one was submitted to us by Corey. Thank you, Corey, for sending this in. The stats on here are a rerolled 10% damage. It's 4,446.1 DPS, by the way. He rerolled the 10% damage, and he actually noted in the email that this came with 7% damage, so he rerolled it up to get the extra 3%. 1,432 strength, increase attack speed by 5%, increases call of the Ancient's damage by 60%, which is perfect roll right there. And his secondary is the mandatory ignores durability loss, and then 23 max fury. I actually wanted to talk about this one because it rolled with a great base damage, so that's fine, and then it actually came with that 7%. I understand that there are breakpoints for the Dust Devils, and obviously for your Call the Ancients attacking faster, so attack speed does have some value. But one of the things that's really strong on an Ancient IK Boulder Breaker is the life per fury spent. So I almost would have made considerations to maybe leave the 7% there and possibly reroll the attack speed into that life per fury spent. But I mean, I don't know just yet. Because I think my thought anyways, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Monstrous, too, as someone who follows Barb stuff quite a bit, is that I think the damage of this combo between 6-piece Waste and 4-piece IK is like more than adequate. I think you'll get to the point where you're probably having a harder time surviving versus putting the damage out as you climb up the greater rifts.
I mean, especially in softcore where a death takes away from your damage. If you're dead, you're not dealing any damage, I guess. So it does save a lot of time, even though you might not be killing as fast. It'll equal out per death. I mean, in hardcore, I mean, it doesn't really matter at all. But, but yeah. See, like if Brandy had stayed alive, she could have been dealing damage, but.
But then she didn't.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Alright, I like it. Moving into our next item. Hey, what do you know? Another Ancient IK Boulder Breaker. This one comes to us from Dark Nomad, and as you can see, it's in German. He actually provided a translation for us, which is awesome. I almost kind of want to just read it in the German anyways and butcher it, but I will actually use the translation that he gave us. So it's a 4,230.2 DPS Ancient IK Boulder Breaker. He rerolled the 10% extra damage on there. This one came with 1,393 strength or Stark. He got the life per fury spent on there, 2,346. And then his Call the Ancients damage is 55%. And then his secondaries are, of course, that ignore durability loss, and then 21 max Max what? Which is translated as Fury. It's kind of cool. Actually, look, that's like Mikey's name. What? W-U-T.
Yeah.
So
there you
it's got 21 Max Mikey. I like it. And Mikey likes it. But okay, I'm sorry. All right, moving on. Let's go to this next item. It's a Ancient Calamity. Drool, my 9-ball drool. It's just gonna make sounds over there. This is from Steven, and he submitted this and he actually had some things to say about it, which I will pull up here. He said it rolled 10% in near perfect damage range, and then he re-rolled resource cost reduction into CDR specifically to use it with the Nats build. And he's thinking that this should allow him to reach his goal of greater of 50 with his DH, and he's currently at 48. So congrats, and hopefully you are either now or in the future about to hit that 50. It's 3,000. Yeah. Sorry, go
ahead. No. Keep going on the item. I'll add my thoughts at the end.
All right.
Same with me. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So 3,409.1 DPS, Ancient Calamity. The natural 10% damage, as he mentioned, 927 dex. That reroll from the resource cost reduction over to 10% CDR. And then the secondary is +9 max discipline. And then, of course, we know what a Calamity does, which is it hits enemies with marked for death. All right, DH thoughts.
I see a lot of Demon Hunters now, especially with that weapon. They're rolling the damage completely off and putting it in the offhand because for the Nats build, the offhand doesn't matter for damage at least. That's what I'm seeing. I mean, I haven't played the spec or the build or anything like that, but that's what I see a lot of people in my current clan doing. They're re-rolling the damage off completely, and they're getting something like reduced cooldown in its place, and then they're actually, and so the damage might be like 400 DPS, but it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like the old thought of the way the old Whirlwind Barbarian worked, where it was just more like a stat stick, but it's a stat bow now, or a stat
hand crossbow.
Yeah,
interesting.
That is exactly the reasoning behind it. But with it being an Ancient Calamity, basically it's whether you have the Natalia's one hand, or the Calamity, or Balefire. Whichever one has the highest DPS is mainly, that's going to be in your main hand, since the Strafe and Rain of Vengeance, both of their damage scales solely off of the main hand damage. Your offhand just needs dexterity and cooldown reduction are like the biggest things, and of course the socket for the emerald in order to go through and get the damage bonus. For Calamity, obviously enemies are going to get the marked for death for the damage bonus. Calamity is the best if you run in parties, but Balefire will be better for you in solo play. If you ever want to go through and swap that up. But yeah, exactly like you were saying, if it's whatever is going to be in your offhand, the damage on it does not matter. So you can easily go through and take the damage affix off to replace with cooldown reduction, since that's going to be like one of your biggest contributors to your damage.
Cool. Sounds good. We'll move right along to our next item, and this one is for you, Monstrous, submitted by our one and only @GrindEXP, also known as Dread Scythe, an Ancient Serpent Sparker. And this one's pretty. It's got 3,259.9 DPS. He rerolled the base damage because it came with a perfect 10% damage on there. 861 intelligence. Increase attack speed by 5%, which when Dread submitted this, he said that was his only misgiving, was that it did not go to 7%. The secondary is his 14 max arcane power, and the legendary power, which allows you to have an extra Hydra. And he used a Happy Meal, which I haven't yet said, and I think many of the other ones did as well too. A Ramalama Ding Dong. You guys can kind of assume it at this point. The socket is thrown in there to get that to get the socket on, to get the crit damage with the emerald.
I'm jealous. It's beautiful.
It is quite a specimen.
Yeah.
On we move, and now we have our Hellfire Amulet section. Apparently you guys took the call to arms from last week very seriously and went out and farmed a bunch of Hellfires, or had some laying around, because there's a lot of really good ones that we got. And so we'll start out with this one from @Aaron_Flankera. Thank you for sending this in via Twitter. It's a Hellfire Ami, as I noted, 638 strength, 85% critical hit damage rerolled, so that can go a little bit higher, 8% critical hit chance, and a socket on there. And then, of course, his passive is Nerves of Steel, which is pretty nice when you're a hardcore barbarian and you want to live, or even a softcore barbarian and you just want that extra come back to life mechanic there. So there's that going on, and some extra life from health globes and potions and whatnot as the secondary. But it gets better. Our next Hellfire Amulet is one that was found on a Crusader, and this is like one season too late, man. If they bring back a Holy Build, you're set, though, because this is from Apollyon, and he's got an ancient Hellfire Amulet. He has nothing rerolled on this, by the way, just listen. He rolled Holy Skills, deal 19% more damage, 901 strength, 88% critical hit damage, 9% critical hit chance. Secondary, unfortunately, isn't going to do much if you have permanent Acrat, because it's reduced duration of control and pairing effects by 24%. But if not, then okay. And then gain the Holy Cause passive. So this is literally your holy amulet, Holy Hellfire.
I like
Very
that.
nice.
Holy Hellfire.
I mean, I guess it fit into a Roland's build.
They do have a. Sorry, go ahead.
The Holy Shield Bash.
Mm-hmm.
Or like sweep attack too. But yeah, that would have been like perfect for last season.
Oh my god, could you imagine? So jelly. But yeah, that's right. I did forget, because right now I think it's fire is the main element that people are running with Rollins. But there are holy options, right? So hey, maybe you can make it work. I don't know. This item deserves to be used. And last but not least, we're rounding out our Hellfire Amulets with this one from Xavier. It's an intelligence-based one. It's also ancient. 947 intelligence. He has critical hit damage, 97%. And he says he will re-roll it to 100%. He says he gave up, but I am saying that he needs to re-roll it to 100%. So go and do it. 3%, you can do it. Critical hit chance.
It's only 3%. How hard could it be?
That's how that works, right? And critical hit chance increased by 9%. A socket on there as well. His secondary is reduces damage from range attacks by 7%, which is awesome on a wizard. And his wizard passive that he got is Illusionist, which is also one of the most excellent passives that you can get. Or so he claims. And I want to believe him because I don't know wizard things, so why not?
Do you have any input, Mr. Wizard?
Mr. Wizard. I wouldn't say it. I mean, I'm still fairly new to the wizard class myself. I mean, even though I've gained just about like 620 Paragon levels playing one right now, but no, I mean, I don't really have anything specific on passives. I mean, passives are. I find that there's a lot more options compared to something like the Barbarian or, I mean, at the Crusader you didn't have a lot of options, but with the Wizard there's a lot more options. It feels like if you want to spec into more defensive or offensive passive. So yeah, I like it.
He likes it. He likes it.
I like it. Yeah.
And last but not least, kind of tying the whole room together / show, we have Nerdwords' submitted via Twitter, Ancient Corrupted Ashbringer. So we finally found it. Here it is, 4,438.3 DPS on this bad boy. He's got a few stats going with it. I need to make the image bigger, so give me one moment. It's got 10% damage on there naturally. There's nothing rerolled on this actually, so that's pretty cool. 1,433 intelligence, reduce all resource costs by 8%, and secondaries are 10% damage to the undead, and some life after each kill, 15,000 plus. His percent, again, I feel like all the Ashburners we've seen so far have had low percent on that additional transformation, unfortunately.
Yeah, all the ones that we've had submitted for sure.
Yeah. So this one only has 5,049%, which is scraping the bottom since 5,000 is the minimum, 6,000 is the max. But again, it's an ancient corrupted Ashbringer. You can't be too mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
on his wizard. So congrats, Nerdwords. We love you and hate you at the same time.
Since I've really only been playing the Demon Hunter, how is this weapon? I'm just interested in knowing for anyone that actually has used it. Like, how does it compete with other choices up at the high end?
It's awesome for T6, but as you get up into the higher grade rifts, things are dying slower, and it's hard to keep up. I haven't seen a lot of people experimenting with the weapon itself. I mean, I'm sure there's a build out there somewhere that will use it. I just don't know to what extent it's going to get as you push higher grade rifts.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I comb the forums trying to find different things that would proc it the best, or get it up, or that have any effect on the proc itself. And there's not a lot of information out there. I mean, it's a hard weapon to find, and not a lot of people have been testing it. So I actually should give it a go, except for I've got it on my wizard. I've got an ancient version similar to that with a much higher proc. And I'm tempted to toss it onto like a Crusader or something to try it out. But right now it's got int on it, and I'm not going to try it out on my wizard. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, you have to report back. Let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end here. We went through a ton of items. Thank you guys so much for submitting them. If yours didn't get shown, I'm sorry. There were just like so many entries, but the bar has been raised again and again each week, so keep submitting. We want to see the best of your best. For me here and the guys here on the show, we thank you for watching. I want to toss it over to Nineball for any closing thoughts that you've got. Things you're looking forward to?
I have no thoughts.
You're devoid of thought?
I am devoid of thought.
Wonderful. All right.
Yep.
Well, then forget about you. I don't even care anymore. Monstrous, I actually care a lot about you. Thank you so much for showing up and hanging out with us tonight. It's been a pleasure and honor and all those other great words that go with that feeling. Sorry. And I ran out of thoughts there for a second too. And yeah, man, I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of just talk about what you're looking forward to in terms of the game, future, season, I don't even know. And also feel free to like plug anything that you want to.
No, it's awesome. I'm a big fan of the show, and I loved hanging out with you guys. It's awesome, and just, I mean, chat's always awesome. And it's almost like they're part of the show too, just going along with everything you're saying, and it's awesome. As far as my next, I guess, goal within the game, I mean, still that ancient Serpent Sparker. Damn you, Dreadsight.
May it not be your Tasker and Theo. That's all I have to say.
I'm going to stay away from the Kadala simulator, just because if I get one in there, I'm going to be so mad. I'll stay away from that. But yeah, so once I get my hands on that, or if I keep on practicing and playing this new build that I'm trying out, I'll make a push. I'm gonna make a push, and I'm gonna return to the Crusader class, I think, near the end of the season, just to give Rollins another go. I mean, I played it a lot in PTR, but I'm definitely gonna try it out, or maybe possibly even a support build before it's too late and gone. I've never played a support build, so. I would love to maybe give that a try before they remove it later on. So
cool, man. Yeah.
Yep.
I dig it. Yeah. Similar thoughts from this side of the room too. I just looking forward to hopefully finding a few more ancient pieces to create, to finalize things on the board, make pushes as well, and looking forward to what kind of things we'll see in the future. You know, the 3-year anniversary is coming up next Friday.
Just in time for me to go out and be watching Mad Max.
Seems fitting.
Yep. Post-apocalyptic Australia, Sanctuary.
Basically the same thing. I mean, they have huge spiders over there that want to kill you too. So
exactly, everything in Australia wants to kill you. So that is like living in Sanctuary. So I guess a Nayrol would have a lot of experience with that.
That's right. All right, so yeah, thank you guys so much. You've been watching episode 49 of the Westmarch Workshop. It's Kissing Kadala. go do it. She'll give you good stuff, I promise. Whether you do it with Taylor Swift fighting dragons or in the real game, who knows? But yeah, thank you guys. You can find us here every Wednesday night. It's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific here on twitch.tv/Leviathan111. You can communicate with us again, as we've been mentioning. We'd love to hear from you all. So Twitter, the WM Workshop. Personally, you can also hit all of us up. I'm SAS. Wow, I was going to spell it out. That's dumb. I'm SA Stewart 111. That's 9ball Gamer, my partner in crime and punishment. And of course, our guest tonight was Monstrous D3 on Twitter. You can also send emails again, Westmarch Workshop, blizzpro.com. Go to diablo.blizzpro.com for all those excellent articles we mentioned previously. If you want to join us in Raid Call, I actually have the info for you tonight. The number is 644-6420. We're always in there talking about the craziest of things. Maybe you get previews of what we might end up talking about on the show. You just come hang out, have a good time. And yeah, the in-game community is always hopping as well. Westmarch Workshop. Let's just hang out. Let's just play.